I'm thinking of leaving my husband after 4 years of marriage. The title is exactly what it sounds like. I'm 24F considering leaving my husband 30M. He doesn't contribute to chores around the house and plays games for hours every day. I have to remind him to do basic things like shower, chores, etc. I've told him multiple times that I don't want to parent him, and he'll do better for a day or two and then go right back to it. He only has 2 chores: dishes and trash. And we have a dishwasher. The problem is that he's neglected them for so long that we now have a fruit fly infestation and have to call pest control to come deal with it. I know I should have done something before it got this bad, but he kept reassuring me it would get done. He's also incredibly impulsive and spends money he knows we don't have. I'm between jobs at the moment and won't have any pay until July. I've also tried to communicate about this, but he shuts down when I try to talk to him about things that bother me. There's some other reasons, but these are the big ones. They've only recently become an issue in the last year or two. He's likely got undiagnosed ADHD. I can see the symptoms and know that these problems are an issue because of the ADHD. I also have ADHD and use coping strategies to deal with it. I've suggested coping strategies for him, but he says it won't work and won't even try. Him shutting down when I try to communicate with him means that I can't talk to him. He refuses to talk to me until I bottle it all up and explode, which he claims reinforces him not talking to me. I've suggested marriage counseling, which he claims we don't need. I do love him, a lot. But these problems are weighing me down so much that I feel depressed over it. I blew up again today and called him lazy and basically told him he wasn't allowed to play games until he finished his chores and the flies were taken care of. Which makes me feel like I'm parenting him again. I don't want to leave him, but I'm not sure what else to do at this point. What would you guys suggest? Update. So I guess things are going to go for the better. In my last post, I broke down some of my husband's behavior and how it's likely linked to undiagnosed ADHD. Several people suggested leaving him. Some things I left out of my last post that now seem relevant. I am disabled and often use a wheelchair or cane to manage my symptoms. I have a hard time bathing and dressing myself. I am occasionally reliant on the help of others. Part of why he neglects himself and chores is because he works a full-time job and has to help me. These weren't issues until my health began to deteriorate. Some of his behavior is rooted in PTSD from a highly abusive relationship. I packed a suitcase and was getting ready to leave and stay with family when my husband came home. He saw the suitcase, asked what was going on, and we had an actual conversation. No avoidance or shutting down. He apologized, said he understood, and that he'd like a chance to fix things. He set alarms on his phone to remind himself to do chores, etc. He Googled ways to manage ADHD without medication and called his doctor to set up an appointment to talk about getting evaluated for ADHD and PTSD. He called our church to set up some marriage counseling. And he started cleaning without me asking. All things he hadn't done before, even when I begged. I think seeing the suitcase and realizing that I was really planning on leaving helped. Maybe I'm wrong and this is just his attempt before it gets worse again, but I think he's actually trying this time. Am I wrong to be hopeful here? TLDR, my husband seems to be making efforts to mend our marriage, but I'm not sure it'll last. ETA, I didn't add my disabled status to the first post for a few reasons. I just don't like talking about it. My disability is nobody's business. He only helps me for about 15 or maybe 30 minutes a day, and they're low-effort tasks as well. I didn't think I deserved less effort in a relationship because I'm disabled. Unfortunately, some of you seem to think I do deserve less. Edit, do I work? I work as much as I'm able to based on my health. It changes from week to week. Sometimes it's only 20 hours, other times it's 60. We average about the same amount of work weekly. And we had agreed that if I'm too disabled to work full-time one week, I also don't have to stress myself out and make my symptoms worse by adding on even more housework than I already do. My husband isn't the sole breadwinner. I usually make more than he does, depending on how much I'm able to work in a given week. Edit 2. I scheduled all his doctor's appointments. I'm the one who is told about family events because he won't take note. When I've already offered to set up counseling and he refused it, saying it was unnecessary, he should be responsible for showing initiative. And he didn't ask me to set up counseling. I didn't know he had talked to them until after because he was trying to take initiative and show that our relationship is important.
Relevant comments. Commenter, the disabled part is huge and changes the entire story. My dad had to care for my mom and 4 kids under 18, and then all of us had to help care for my mom because she got early onset Parkinson's disease. Our house was a pit. Nobody has energy to go to work 40 hours a week or go to school for 30 hours a week and care for another person. All any of us did, when things got really bad, was pray she'd fall asleep so we could also sleep or watch TV. Caring for someone is a full-time job, and I'm not sure what country you live in, but most places make it so that in-home care and assisted living are beyond our reach. It's not a person's fault, it's society's fault for not being set up to support us. If he works at a job and as a caregiver, I'd cut him some slack. Commenter 2, leaving out from her original post that he's having to act as a caregiver for OP seems deliberately deceptive.
OP. He doesn't have to do that much. Basically, make sure I don't fall asleep and drown in the tub and help me get clothes on if I'm having a symptomatic day. I didn't think that being disabled was relevant since I don't require a lot of help. I function pretty well on my own, and him helping me takes 15 or maybe 30 minutes out of the day. I don't ask him to do much else.
Commenter 3, so if he's struggling with unmedicated ADHD and PTSD, and full-time work, and caring for his disabled wife, don't you realize he was already really struggling and now you put a whole load more stuff on his plate for him to crumble under? You have to ask, what does he get in return? Is there any enjoyment in his life, if all he has are these pressures? I read your post and feel that you got what you wanted and he got even less than he had. I could be wrong, but that's how it seems to me. If you do decide to stay with him, you gotta make sure it's also worth it for him. An equitable partnership. Commenter 4, I highly doubt OP will address this question, which tells us all we need to know.
OP. He gets home-cooked meals, dates, love, etc. I do 95% of the housework, and the few things that are his responsibility are things he decided would be his responsibility. He gets time to play games, as I'm not against them entirely. He spends time out with friends when he wants, doing basically whatever he wants to do. He gets a lot in return from our relationship. It's never 50-50. Some days are 80-20, but who's giving the 80 changes? I support him through whatever dreams and aspirations he has, which change almost daily. I have good and bad days, which means there are plenty of days that I don't seem disabled at all and don't need help. Assuming I'm the villain because I'm disabled and didn't feel like telling a bunch of strangers all about my medical issues is entitled and inherently ableist.